So yeah, welcome back to week 2, everyone. We're diving straight back in. We come up with the name in the last session, so it was AI Kingdom.
Yep.
I know there's a few people out there that may be using that as well, so sorry if we have stolen your name. But no one seems to be doing big things with it.
Yeah, particularly on YouTube. I haven't really
Yeah.
searched everything else, but yeah, we came up with sort of a graphic. We've kind of come close to finalizing that for the time being, and then we came up with market research. Did some kind of rough market research on who our target market is. Who we're writing content for, who we're producing content for, and all with ChatGPT. Mostly. So we didn't actually go out and do real market research. We just leveraged ChatGPT to help us dial in a couple of avatars that meet our requirements. Now, the other thing we wanted to talk about in this episode, well, is it what did you want to talk about this episode, Nathan? Was there something in particular?
No, I guess, nothing in particular. I had some ideas like from through the week. I guess we could go through stuff that we've been using, like GPT-4. I'm subscribed to the Pro version now, so
when you say GPT-4, you saying
GPT-3?
GPT-3. Okay, yeah, you're
yeah.
talking about the fast model on ChatGPT. Have you seen that? With the
Yeah.
premium thing.
Did you end up subscribing as well?
I did. Yeah, I did. When the day it was released in Australia, I subscribed and been messing around with it. Everyone's preferring so for those who are listening and who are still using ChatGPT on the free account and how buggy it is, they've released their subscription plan, which is $20 US a month as the time of recording this, and they've also rolled it out to Australia, which is great, so we can access it. And when I logged in for the first time, to my knowledge, or to my surprise, I should say, there were 2 different model options. One was the one that everyone was using. It was just less laggy because there wasn't a huge server overload. But there's also a speed model, optimized for speed model. And as of yesterday or the day before, they have had heaps of customer feedback and they've decided to set the optimized model as the default model. So we are now using the optimized model, and it's a lot faster to what I was used to on the free plan, that's for sure. And yesterday
I'd have to provide a more detailed. I tried then just to quickly see
if it's aware of the optimizations,
or just to see what sort of response it would get. But it didn't seem to be noticeably different. But I guess it is.
I found it a lot faster in terms of just like the latency of it responding. It's subtle, but particularly when it came to writing code. I've been doing a lot of code writing to get ChatGPT to help me with prompt engineering. And we just had this ongoing discussion about this Python function that I was writing at the time that, we slowly came up with ideas on how to write these really complicated prompts to create long form content, like a script or an article that's well over like 5,000, 10,000 words. Because you always exceed the maximum token size, which is much bigger on the DaVinci 003 model, and I think this is equivalent to the 003.5 model on ChatGPT. But when you're interfacing with the API, you're limited to 4,096 tokens, which I think is about 3 tokens. What is it? It's either one character is about 3 or 4 tokens, or the other way around. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. Anyway, so one of the biggest challenges is if you're saying, write a story about something, you then hit some limitations on that story. If your prompt is literally write a story with a beginning, middle, and end in the style of X author, then the output will be 4,096 tokens converted to characters, or 4,000-ish, and it will have a beginning, middle, and end. So if you then want to keep writing by providing context in a loop to continue the story, you're going to have a new story that has a beginning, middle, and end if you're using the same prompt over and over again. So that's a kind of a difficult challenge to solve. There's a few ways to go about it. One is to outline the story initially with GPT and then iterate through the headings. The other is to have different prompts for different sections. Like,
I had an example of that working at some stage, because I found someone else that was doing something. They were asking it to write a story. I'll see if I can find the prompt, because it was pretty interesting. It was basically an iterative way to get it to keep writing and writing and writing.
Yeah, so that's there. Prompt. I'd love to see that. I've been working on some examples myself on how to do that. One thing that I do in my agency all the time is ask GPT to define the outline of an article, or manually define the outline of an article with like a JSON array. And say, for instance, a blog post, and we get GPT to write the outline, and then it goes through each heading and fills the thing. But it's challenging when you have to give it a specific word count that it needs to meet, and that's what we do. Is like we make sure that whatever articles we write are competitive to its competition and needs to meet a specific word count, and have specific headings to consider comprehensively covered that topic. So yeah, we've done that, and it works quite well in our agency. We can churn out articles. Just today, I've done 19,000 words just myself.
Wow.
But in the context that I was talking about at the beginning was actually writing a fiction story. Fictional story, science fiction. But just continuously, no headings, no chapters, just continuously. And the goal is to then have like a text to speech to read the story in a certain kind of video that we're creating. And I've got it mostly working. I've just got some sort of prompt engineering and stuff to do.
I found the example. Let's try it with the latest one. So this prompt is we're going to write a story one step at a time following the plan below. I will only say next, and you will answer with the step number, the process, and the result. The steps of this plan are as follows. Pick a literary genre arbitrarily. And then step 2, pick an arbitrary setting that fits the genre. Step 3, pick a handful of characters and define their names and personality traits. Step 4, describe the plot of the story using by the character from the previous step, accounting for the chosen genre and setting. Step 5, divide the plot over a handful of chapters and write a summary for each chapter. Step 6, write each chapter one at a time. Should we go?
Before you run it, can you just zoom your screen in a bit? So everyone can.
Maybe, yeah.
Everyone can kind of see.
Cool. So let's go. I will only say next. So I don't know if that was exactly what we were expecting.
Yeah, I think this would work well with the API, perhaps by.
Oh, I can show you. It worked really well for me before. Let me just write next here. Let's see. Step 2.
Yeah.
Now the genre is chosen. So the first tick is to pick. So the result, I have chosen a mystery genre for this story. Okay. The result, I've decided to set the story in a large, bustling city with many secrets hidden in the alley and high rises. Now that I have a genre and setting, I need to create a few characters to populate the story. For this mystery story, I will need a protagonist who will be doing the detective work, as well as a few suspects. So we have a detective who is determined to a methodical investigator who is haunted by a past failure, a wealthy businessman with a secretive and ruthless nature. A young artist with a troubled past who becomes the key suspect in the case, and Officer Tom, a detective police officer who works alongside Samantha. So, okay, so we've got our characters. With the characters in mind, it's time to come up with a plot for the story. For a mystery, the key is to have a central puzzle of crime. So a plot of the story will resolve around the murder investigation, with Marcus Kane as the main suspect. Samantha and Tom work together to gather evidence against him. They begin to suspect Sarah Collins may have played the role in the crime as well, along with their counter-area obstacles, including red herrings and other distractions, before ultimately uncovering the true culprit and bringing them to justice. Seen something like this before?
Yeah, well, I've just been toying with something similar, and it's just like mind-boggling. I rendered the result as text-to-speech in a sort of video in some of the automation that I'm building, and I couldn't look away. I was just captivated by the story.
Yeah.
But the next thing that we really need to check, though, is
well, should we do that? Should we do this story?
Yeah, I think
as an appendium, like we can just upload what it is. And I should give credit to whoever came up with this prompt. Like, I don't know who you were, but I thought it was. I think I grabbed it off Reddit. And I actually took this and I updated it to generate code. I said, like, pick 2 integrations, arbitrary integrations at random. And then I said, like, next define the what you want the integration to do. And then I said, next define the names of the files, like the chapters. And then I said, then write the contents for each file. And it even came up with a main.py, and like it put functions into various files and stuff. And I was pretty impressed.
That's pretty shocking. Yeah. And that's what I use on a daily, is like, write me a Python function or a Python class to do X, and then I just describe the inputs and outputs, and it does a really good job.
Have you used Copilot much?
No, I haven't. Is that just as good?
Well, it's I think it maybe is better at code.
Yeah.
But I do like ChatGPT's ability to kind of like help you brainstorm more.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's been the niche that this has really had for me, is the sort of brainstorming. I'm just going to keep hitting next, and we'll render this as a story later, and we'll all listen to it together. So I feel like it's more useful as a pair programmer, whereas Copilot will help you do something if you know what you want to do.
Yeah.
Whereas you might be able to get the idea about what to do from ChatGPT based on some sort of problem. So I'll often go to ChatGPT, and I'll be like, this is a problem I have. So an example I had this week was, I was trying to find a better way to prioritize work for our company. And so we have developers that are working on stuff, and I kind of want to get them to not just work on whatever they want to work on, but I want to have some methodology backing me up to say, like, these are the tasks that we should probably do next. Not just like management saying, hey, let's do this. So to do that, I wanted to have a sort of systematic framework. And so I went and I found a couple of places to do that. And so I pulled up one actually here. I'll just keep this going. I pulled up this article. And this is 5 different prioritization methods, and they're pretty nice. Like, we've got this impact effort matrix, which it's kind of like the same as the important, not important one, but impact and effort are the 2 things on the quadrant. And basically it's like, do the urgent important things first, then if there's urgent not important things, delegate them, and then if there's important non-urgent things, schedule that work. And then if there's things that are not important or not urgent, never do them. So that's kind of that. There's a few different approaches here. And so we kind of came up with an approach that combines all of them together. Like, here's another one, which is from Intercom. And it takes the people that it reaches, the impact that it will have, and the confidence the team has, and divides it by the amount of effort to give you a score. So I put all this into ChatGPT and was like, hey, we just have this problem. How can we rank tasks? And it started to generate ideas for me, which I then put into a Google Sheet. And then I used I used ChatGPT to generate the functions in Excel for Google Sheets to give me all the stuff that I needed. And the end result is like we have kind of like a prioritized system of tasks. It was like more of a dance because it didn't always get the sheet functions correctly, and I wouldn't find out until much later when I was like doing a sort of a deep analysis. So it definitely fell short in terms of like being able to generate formulas for like. But it got me unblocked enough to be able to feel like I had the power to just like plow through it all. So
yeah, that's great. I've had similar experiences just in general with writing code. Is that you put in the inputs and outputs, and it does a good enough job to get you most of the way there, and does the bulk of the coding for you. However, so you're not personally thinking about syntax and stuff like that, and then you're sort of left just cleaning up the edge cases, cleaning up the little manual bits to connect things properly, or maybe it's knowledge of particularly third-party APIs isn't fully up to date too. That's happened a lot. And sometimes it doesn't help me if there's incompatibility with like my laptop. If my laptop being an Apple, sometimes has a lot of incompatibility with things, and so still going.
I'll just keep it going. Anyway, we could always finish it off later.
So I hit something like this, and if you just keep, I hit an infinite loop. So I said create. Basically, it's a similar thing, an outline for an ebook, and it kept creating it. But because I hit the word like the max token length, and I just hit continue and continue and continue, it just kept going. It never stopped generating the outline, and it just ended up being this ebook with, several hundred headings, with no end or summary or conclusion.
I'm going to keep, I think I'm up to 6 now, so there's 10 chapters, so I'll keep it going until we get to chapter 10. But I wonder if it can really keep that much context. Depends how they're summarizing the context here. Dead end and have to regroup. So I think, I'm not sure if it's connecting the dots. That's right. So it's still getting the context from up here.
Okay.
I do want to show you about, you mentioned before, we'll just finish this and then I'll show you, like, you mentioned like teaching it about APIs that don't exist. So I found some really cool ways to do that. And it reminded me when I was doing it through the week of the kind of experience of like that scene in The Matrix where Neo like gets like kung fu or whatever it is, jiu-jitsu downloaded. And I was like, I'll show you the chat prompt in a second, but it was pretty cool. And I even, as I was sitting in my seat, I was like, like swearing, like, oh my God, I can't believe that worked. So I think
I had an experience recently where I had to write some technical documentation about integrating 2 services for a business owner, to make a decision on whether they want to go ahead with a custom integration or not. And this one of the APIs ChatGPT had no knowledge of. So one of the things I did was literally and systematically inputted the API references for each of the functions. But their documentation was really good. It just hadn't been parsed by ChatGPT at all. So as a result, I was able to almost put together code on how to integrate these services within minutes of putting all the reference managers. And the great thing about that is because it was just a feasibility study to see whether it was possible. And then at the same time in the report, I'm actually providing code to show them how it would work, like at least pseudocode. It might not be functional, but pseudocode to show them how it would work. And Yeah, I found that really good, training it on that API.
Yeah. Yep. I totally understand what you need. So I was gonna somewhere on here. So this is a platform I was using to generate flowcharts. It generates flowcharts for you. It looks kind of cool. But I've never used it before. I just Googled it and I found this page, and there is somewhere on here like like how this works, syntax reference maybe. So like what I did is I copied this whole thing, and then you'll see here I said, I'm going to teach you how to make, this is the first thing, I'm going to teach you how to make flowcharts. Then you will use this knowledge to generate new flowcharts for text that I enter later. Okay? And it's like, sure, I'd be happy to learn how to create flowcharts. Please go ahead and teach me. And then I just pasted in literally all the content on the page. And then it's like, thanks for teaching me about how to create flowcharts. I'm now equipped how to generate flowcharts from text input. Please provide me the text you'd like me to generate. And then I just provided a text, and it started to generate the code, which I could copy paste back into here and generate flowcharts.
Is that what this is? Is that what we're looking at now? Is that the one?
Well, we can try it. We can try it now. But yeah, I was like, generate a flowchart. Pay particular attention to the number of white spaces. The final flowchart should have one start node and a number of leaf nodes representing the priority. And this is the style example that I gave it. So I said, just to give it a little bit more context. And then this is the output of another chat session I had where I was figuring out how to prioritize technical tasks. So technical tasks, like, they're kind of hard to prioritize because, does it increase your testability? Does it increase the number of libraries or dependencies that you have? Does it somehow affect the code quality? Does it add functionality, or does it enable something like in the future? So there's all these like really abstract dimensions to it. And I wanted a way to prioritize from a technical perspective the tasks. And I wanted a way that like junior developers could follow. Like I didn't want to have like it'd be overly cumbersome. So what I wanted to have was like a flow chart where it's like, does it do this? Okay, it gets a score of 1. Then no, okay, well then does it do this? Okay, it gets a score of 2. To get a number between 1 and 10 for the priority. And so that's what I was trying to do here. I was trying to create a flow chart based on this. So you'll see in here, it's like, does this impact the code quality? If yes, add a score of 3 to the priority. Does it increase the maintainability? Okay, then add a score of 2, right? And so based on this, it will generate a flow chart. So we'll just regenerate it for argument's sake. I might even, just regenerate the response. So it goes ahead and gives us this code.
Yep.
Which it had no idea how to do like a minute ago. So effectively, we're teaching it how to make.
It's cool that it knew that it was a code block as well.
Yeah. It also, so we can go over here and we can paste it in here and see what happens. Right. So it's not the way that what I'm feeding it is it's not really set up to be like the flowchart like I described, like from the top down. So I need to figure that out on my end, but it did generate all the elements that are valid. Yeah. So that kind of worked.
Yeah.
The other thing, you could also ask it to do it. Can you generate the same thing using ASCII type? And it'll do this too.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Yeah, where I see the power of this is like particularly a lot of businesses or teams that are already like quite lacking in creating their processes, business processes, and having visual representations of processes which are much easier to understand. This type of thing could help them be equipped with that in a much quicker way.
Yeah, because then it really does. It takes out You know, I don't know how to get it to do the top down. What would you call that? Like a top down flowchart. Anyway.
Yeah, it's probably just a matter of learning the right phrases to put in.
Yeah.
To give it the accurate prompt.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I've also done it with our API because we're building out our API at the moment. If we go connection, and then API docs. And so this is an example of what you were talking about before. So
yep,
we have in here, like, this is not picked up. Wasn't even published. You know, so we can select all. I don't know why it's not working. And theoretically select all. For some reason, the browser's working out. I want to do it. Anyway, you can paste this into ChatGPT and then have it figure out how to make API calls.
Yep, awesome. So one thing I wanted to talk about, but it's probably something a more bigger thing while we're waiting for our story we can see where the story's up to. Is I don't know about you, but when all these language models first came out, like prior to that, we all knew AI was coming and we had suspicions, and probably in some way, well, at least I did, I kind of instinctively thought that it would be the mundane tasks that get automated first. All of the annoying tasks that no humans want to do. And I guess that is more probably related to robotics than it is to AI, but it still does require the AI, like a natural language processing AI, to be embedded in the robot, essentially, to be able to come up with commands and tasks on itself, kind of in a sentient way. But actually what ended up happening was the creative tasks were rolled out first. So, you know, you've got artists and content creators are now either leveraging AI to help them be more productive, or are up in arms because it's essentially replaced a lot of the creativity, which is, I found super interesting that's what happened first. And it kind of makes you realize, well, if they've already solved that problem, I think then everything else is going to be an easier problem to solve when you've got that in place. Because what I'm finding is that having these natural language models enables me to automate a lot of the creative tasks that I would otherwise do myself, or hire writers or stuff to do. And like, for example, like creating a YouTube video, you still need to do research. You still need to, the creative tasks were doing the keyword research, doing the title and description, producing the content, like writing the scripts and stuff like that, creating the visualizations. But to a degree, for certain types of videos, all of those things can be automated. So there's definitely things I've hit that can't be automated. Like if we recorded this video and wanted to trim every out and every, and be really picky, like if you're creating a more professional polished video, you would still need to use tools to do that. And if you wanted to add effects and stuff like with After Effects, you would still need to do that. But for the most part, if we just wanted to literally just put this video up on YouTube, maybe trim the beginning and the end, enhance the audio, create thumbnail, write titles and description, it's uploaded.
Yeah. So what's the bit that you said that you don't think can be automated? Now let's have a look at that.
Okay, so the biggest challenge for video editing to automate is if we wanted to slice up this video into a different order, like this, like switching orders around. If we wanted to slice up and add at certain points based on things that have been said, add specific images that have been generated with text to image. It just becomes a bit more complicated. And maybe there's stuff that I'm toying with, like when you create a story from an existing video, how do we center the frame of that portrait mode on the original landscape video? We can do it based on potentially facial recognition. But it's also a trade-off with computing power at the moment, because if you do an hour-long video and you're doing facial recognition to create 10 shorts from an hour-long video, yeah, having a shorthand might be good. But you still need the time codes, and who's going to create the time codes?
So so I guess I'm thinking about it like, is it possible to script? I guess you can break the problem down. Like, first, you got to figure out where you want to have the slice points and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, that's one thing. Once you've got the slice points, do you think that it's possible to automate the slicing then?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have well, I mean, you can work out slice points, which I'm doing already, but it's like you have to be willing to let go of any creativity that you want the output to be, and let the AI decide what those points are. I guess that's going to be the biggest challenge, is because a lot of people are inherently very creative and picky and wanting something to do something. But it's fine for stuff like this, like non-high production value videos where we're just having a conversation. You can transcribe that video and let the AI come up with the interesting points. But what if it's just something interesting that happens on the screen and it's not spoken? Stuff like this. These are all big challenges. Like you kind of then need an AI to be aware of the objects and then to make decisions based on the objects, which requires huge amount of computing power to do machine vision on a huge, like an hour-long video. Yeah. But for the most part, for the types of videos that we're creating, and if it's just information based, yeah, it's very possible to use AI to write the script, come up with the idea, write the script, and produce the video. And then you're just integrating with the other APIs to pull in stock media footage to potentially, like if you wanted to create a info video about the top 10 holiday destinations in the Maldives, then you could potentially do that if you can source media through APIs of those destinations. And yeah, or you're doing a slideshow on how to lose weight, you could do that as well.
Can we update this prompt here to generate something like anyway, maybe we'll do that in a second. But yeah, so I mean, I think then the issue for you is not the problem is just figuring out the slice points, which seems like if it's not this version of GPT, it seems like another version would be able to do it, or a custom kind of like something that was just trained on all videos ever would be able to pick cut points,
Yeah, I agree.
So
if it was actually trained on videos, if there was instead of a natural language model, it's like a visual model.
Yeah, and I guess you could do like different styles. You could do like the Mr. Beast style, like of slicing stuff, or you could do like a Blair Witch style, where there's no cuts.
Yeah.
For anyone who remembers that video.
Yeah, it would be super interesting. Like fast forward, maybe even 2 years from now, then there's going to be all kinds of models trained on different data sets and using Moore's law about the increase in transistor density. It's like it basically doubles every 2 years. Eventually there'll be a limit, but that's what's been happening. And the more transistor power we can get on a chip means consumers can afford chips and have this super computing power within their home. So and deploy models locally, but also the models are so cheap online these days. So yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of models deployed on a GPU serverless framework, which is, for those of you who don't know what a serverless framework is, it's basically instead of renting a computer in the cloud to run a website or to run an application or do some tasks for you, which can become very costly over time because you just have to leave it on 24/7. Otherwise, it goes down. But what if you just have one task to run? And it's so much extra effort to write code to deploy a, say, an Amazon EC2 instance or a what's that one that you guys, DigitalOcean, unit, and then shut it all down when the task is done. It's a lot of extra infrastructure and overhead to write. So a serverless framework is where you basically just interface with an API and launch a task through the API, and you deploy code on an instance which gets created, and then it gets destroyed as soon as the task is done. And it can be super cheap to do that. And that's how I run my content agency. But a lot of the serverless frameworks out there are mostly CPU driven, so they have a compute storage thing. But when you're looking at running models like this, say Stable Diffusion image generation, or text-to-speech models that are custom. Maybe you've got custom models that you've created or trained. You probably need GPU acceleration to do massively parallel tasks to get it done in a decent amount of time. And so there's two prominent ones, but there's a few options out there that have a GPU serverless framework. The one that I've been using lately is banana.dev. They've got a great community as well. And I've deployed some Stable Diffusion models on there to do image generation for my video content. Yeah, and so it's going to be more available to people, I think, in 2 years. Like, it's still pretty cheap. Like, it's 0.0005 cents per second. And when these tasks only run for about a minute or two, like, it's really cheap. It's trivial what the costs are. It's when you're training data sets and building custom models on those types of infrastructure, it becomes a bit more expensive. But yeah, imagine a world we live in where anyone can have NVIDIA 3090 equivalent, which Nathan has sitting on his desk, in the households, and they can run these models themselves or create content themselves, or there's just an application built on top of that where they can just create a YouTube. They speak to their virtual assistant in their home and they say, hey, virtual assistant name Jarvis, create a video, a soothing music video, and upload it to YouTube about X, and you just give it some information. So
you've seen Open Assistant?
Well, this is my next thing, is now that I've got this video generation working, it's like I would love to integrate with an assistant.
I'm not sure if
so it's probably worth chatting about.
Yeah, so there's this Open Assistant thing. We could just go to the conversation with everyone. So it's redirecting me. Maybe if I open in a secure tab, opening another tab. So they're building like a database of conversational AI to sort of do like an open source version thing of ChatGPT. Yeah, so it's okay. Pretty cool. And they've got some cool bits and pieces. Yeah, this is one of the things, which is the kind of the data collection and processing version of the interface. So you can sort of rank data as it comes in. So, you just click something you want to do. So this is, I'm looking for interesting place to visit within a 2-hour drive. And so this is what it gave back or something. So we're ranking assistance replies, and it'll tell you what that is. And so they're kind of coming up with this thing, so.
Yeah.
and you can rank them, I guess. So they've built this UI so you can rank which of these ones you think is the best. If I want to skip it, just skip it, and then I get another task. So it's kind of like Mechanical Turk, Amazon's Mechanical Turk, but yeah. So I don't know if these are supposed to be private or whatever, but there's interesting stuff there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd feel like I'm at a point in my agency where it's, in terms of my pursuit for automating things, is trying to collate all of the tools that I've built together into like a content generation powerhouse.
Do you think the art of do you think there's just going to be too much content? I was listening to
this is another challenge.
Sticks and Hammer, or whatever his name is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been making content for years, and he has pretty good insight on stuff. And I would say that, he was talking about there being just too much. It's too easy. It's too cheap to make content.
Yeah.
And so several years ago, there was this apocalypse on YouTube because there was just so much content created that resulted in the value of content being reduced because of the supply and demand. So
yeah,
I
think that's definitely going to be a big issue. Even on the internet and blogs, really, Google can only give you 10 results, but there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of results on even narrow, long tail keywords. So yeah, this is definitely a thing, and that's why the need for NLP models exists, so people can not get pulled into the industrial complex that is content. And
I think it was another thing that I think carries on from that is another. Who was I listening to? I think it was our friend. Let's see if I can find him. The guy behind. Not the Open Assistant, but the other one, the Raven project. Yeah. Talking about how the new era of search will potentially be, we won't search for things. We'll use more of a Bing sort of style approach. The new Bing approach is there. So rather than having a traditional, Google is particularly challenged by this because their whole business model is built around, search. But what if the internet is a big collective, big cyber collective of information, and what if the neural network, you just ask the neural network directly, and so somehow, why would you need to go out and check individual web pages? The web pages only exist as an input to this collective consciousness kind of thing, like this. And so, maybe
I've
in the
been
future,
chatting with some people about that too, and there's still some need for people to be able to go and search for a business and get a service, like local businesses and plumbers and electricians and food. We still need those. We have, as humans, we have those needs. So it's going to be important to still write content around those things and to serve people with accurate answers on those things. But yeah, for other things, like pretty much anything else that I can think of.
Well, because I'm in the business of matchmaking, so I'm trying to think about how this relates back to marketplaces and matchmaking. So if you do have a service-based marketplace, what is the? I was trying to find a co-working space for one of our team members today, and we can go and do it. It's a horrible experience. I go here and I type in co-working space Melbourne, right? And I know roughly where she is. So let's say she's in South Bank, right? And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go to a map here, and even once I get right down in here, I'm like, I'm not there. I don't know how much they are, so I can kind of like, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe I can go back and find it in the search results, like, and see like the images in Google Images and like through Google. I lost it already. So this is what it's like. This is not a fun experience.
Yeah, it is very archaic in the time of instant gratification, isn't it?
And I'm like, okay, well, now I can see what they look like inside. I don't know if they have availability. I don't know how much they are. So, okay, what am I going to do? Open every one?
Yeah.
Co-working space, Melbourne. Like maybe there's
But
an
that's the
aggregator
thing, that
service.
the downside of forcing people down the GPT route, and it just suggests maybe some options for you. It's going to favor certain options way above all the other options. And so it's possible that those businesses who are relying on Google and relying on people doing this archaic process could dry up, which will be the majority of businesses. And that's kind of the scary thing if they solve this with the natural language models. If it becomes so aware of businesses and places.
So maybe now I can, like, maybe I can do a map view here and see what's available. But see, these only have one review. And I'm just overwhelmed with information. There's too many dots, you know. So I don't know what the solution is, but this doesn't feel like. I feel like I would much rather, like, let's just test it out. Like, so what's a type of business you would like usually write content for? Like
Say
a local service business.
Yeah, I'll just say plumber in Southport. Yeah, this would be interesting. Can't browse the internet, but then it may make some suggestions anyway. No, it won't. So yeah, it says I'm not a local. Try searching online.
So it tells me what I could search for. Yeah, so, but what do we expect the result to be? I need a plumber near.
Well, I also feel like this is maybe they know how potentially dangerous this could be, so they have put things in place. Because I would say if it was trained on a percentage of the internet, it would have some information there about plumbers on the Gold Coast or in any particular suburb.
Ask it. Plumbing companies.
There we go.
Okay.
They sound like legitimate brands.
Yeah. I haven't read them, of these fix broken. I don't know, what are we gonna do?
Ask if you've just got contact details for Priority One Plumbing Services.
Okay.
And then ask how many reviews have they got. Okay, so this is the thing. I don't think they will. But I think it's just a content policy thing to give out contact details. I don't think
yeah, I could probably share my other screen and we could try it there. But there's a plugin that like inserts. I mean, Bing's doing this automatically now, but there's a plugin that inserts like search results, you know, in here. But I mean, like, I'm trying to think how does this work? Because we have, like, you know, like our service marketplace demo, right? And so people come in here and they search for stuff using the more traditional way to find service providers and whatever they're looking for. You know, but what does the chat version of this look like?
yeah, it's kind of a singular conversation.
Because if you go to like service service seeking, right? It'll ask me what I need. So I need a plumber, right? And then I put in my postcode, so let's just say 4,000. And so these could be the questions. This could be done through a chat interface, I feel like. So
yeah. So yeah, I see what you're getting at, and I think it broadly applies to a lot of other things too, not just for local businesses. But if you could have a AI interface which would have to interact with hundreds, if not thousands, of third-party services to actually provide meaningful and take meaningful action. Because what if you got to the point where you answered all those questions in a chat-like dialogue, and then it was connected to Twilio or something, and then made the call for you?
Yeah, you will act as an. Would you remember that example? That made me remember. Do you remember the Google support bot that like it talks like a human, and it was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and like
you back and forth email exchange, and you can book a meeting.
What, it was on a call. You could call them. You could call the hairdressing salon. What was that like? The Google.
Yeah, that's right. Did they officially? I don't think they officially released it because they're just using it internally. I've been getting telemarketing calls at the moment with an Australian voice.
That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Far out. I'm sure this has to be used now. This has to be used in production. People have forgotten about that.
Yeah, that would be epic for cold calling. And I think people are doing that. I got this call the other day of a Australian sounding voice, but it was very almost promotional, like a radio presenter. It was nice, like a nice voice. And at first I had to just think about, is it real or not? And then it even had like teleconferencing noise in the background, as if it was in a call center. So it sounded like really convincing, but it was a fully automated call because I've had it more than once, and it's the exact same script.
Interesting. I kind of want to just prototype this prompt to see if we can get ChatGPT to act as a chat agent to ask these sorts of questions. You will act as a chat assistant to collect the essential details to route a lead to the correct service provider. First, you will ask what they need. Like, what was the example? Let's go here. Tyler, cleaner, electrician. Then you will collect any necessary follow-up for that type of service provider and job, so that the lead can be routed to the most appropriate service provider. Okay, I'm pretty sure you could give it a list of stuff that you wanted it to vary. That you could yeah, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Let's see. There it goes. So let's try plumber. What's the nature of the plumbing job?
Yeah.
So we could say ask the questions one at a time.
And the other thing too, it's pointless asking someone to answer these questions by typing. So it would need to be done in a conversation, like an actual conversational manner, I reckon.
Okay. I think this would be a better prompt for the playground, though. What's the first question it asks? What type of service you're looking for? Just let me know if you want to do something else. I'm kind of.
Yeah, we'll do this a bit, and then we'll check on the. Do you want to do any more with the story that we started at the beginning?
I did finish it off, and I sent it to you.
Okay.
So you can check it out. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's in our chat group. Okay. So we want to inject. We're making a chatbot, right? So we want to inject something here. We want to inject human and the restart text. I think we only want to generate like short responses, right? Like just not very long. Let's go. Okay. I'm gonna undo that and then this, delete this, and go. Okay, but we actually want the.
Can you zoom your screen in a bit?
Sure. So we actually want human type in. So we would put in plumber here, right? And so okay. What type of plumbing job do you need done? Human. I still haven't figured out how to get it to do new lines. If you want to help me figure that out.
Right. Yeah.
So like I'm just gonna try and reproduce what we see on service seeking. So voila. And then do 4,000. Quickly describe the job that you need done. So okay, I'll put in some details. I need a new toilet. I need a leaking sink fixed. I need a leaking sink fixed. Is it a residential or commercial property? Let's see. I need a sink, a leaking sink. Okay, so it's asked when do we need it done? So we'll just say residential. Okay. What is the address of the property? So it's asking for a location, and I'll just say, 1 Brisbane Road. Brisbane. Something I need for now. I'll route this lead to the appropriate plumber. Is there anything else I can help you with today? So stop sequence. Now, I would say to get it to respond in boxes, like answer the questions one at a time, and provide options that the user can select. For example, if you ask what sort of job they need done. Provide several of the most common options in brackets.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you could then have an interface that gave people like nice little things to click on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. See what happens. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chat style third-party form software you can use now to do exactly this instead of just a boring website form. But you still have to hard code the questions in.
Yeah, so
but this is kind of like a unification of, it's not about having a a plumber to have this on his website. It's to have, you know, a simple app which is your assistant and knows how to ask the right questions for any given service and any given thing that you want it to do.
Yeah. Service timeline. When do they need it? This is pretty common service. What do they need? When do they need it? What is their budget? And contact details. Where do they need it? What?
Yeah, I think for those who are listening this long, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that there's so many applications for these natural language models, and you can train it to do assistant level tasks, or collect information, or if you pair that with a bit of custom development, you can start to really automate a lot of things. And I think as a society, we're still struggling to understand how best to leverage this technology to bring productivity improvements or convenience improvements to, you know, the broader world. But no doubt in a couple of years there'll be some incredible things built on top of this technology. Already is hundreds of startups, probably a month, just launching on top of this. It's so easy to just suddenly add, for existing companies and startups, suddenly add smart, you know, AI powered technology into their app without actually having to have a research team, as we discussed in the last meeting. And it's just, it's kind of a, you know, how the technology over the last 50 years has rapidly increased, and it's that increase isn't because everyone has an R&D team. It's because every bit of technology is built on top of another piece of technology. And an example of that is, you know, a lot of hardware and microchips, you actually have to write in like assembly and machine code. But these days, the manufacturer handles all that. And so it enables product designers to write in C instead. But then the C, if you produce another product, enables, you know, operating systems and things like that to be built. And then operating systems enable people to be content creators and things like that. So it's a kind of a, I've used it in the past, called like a level of escalation, and it's just layer upon layer upon layer and upon layer. And this is another layer. What's the next layer going to be? So it's exciting, it's scary, it's unknown. It's what I do know is that it's something that we need to stay ahead of, or at least ride the wave of it to learn it, to be better equipped, to be better employees, to be positively engaged in a productive way in this technology. Yeah. So it's pretty exciting.
It is. There we go. I've made my service marketplace matching prototype.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you can see the process here to iterate though. Like we kind of went through, like, you know, we wanted it to give responses, like Roger said. Like we want to make it easy for people to pick stuff. So we'll suggest things. We just ask it to suggest things, and then, you know, we really want to direct the conversation. Like we're trying to get a lead for somebody. So in order for a business, like I know this industry a bit, you need to know what they want, where they want it, when they want it, how much they're willing to pay. And then with that, you can shop that around. You can, you know, sell that to a lot of plumbers and charge them a monthly fee for access to this opportunity. They can then contact that person and give them a quote, and maybe they'll choose to go with them or not. But the goal is to kind of get that information, and then so you can route them to the best, you know, to service providers. Now, all we've done here is emulate, like, collecting the details. Once we've got them, we could take it back to a system like we have before. The thing that I think would be interesting is, like, to figure out how to better recommend solutions. So like maybe you can filter on some criteria, and then, you know, like summarize all the reviews, and then you can say, look, these are the top 10 service providers. Which one do you think would be best for this particular client? You know, and so you could have some sort of context here, like what sort of client are they? Like, are they, I don't know what makes sense, you know, but if it was like if you were trying to match someone with like a fitness instructor, you know, you might have some details about the person's, like, psychometric profile. Like, are they a corporate executive, or are they a hippie, you know, like, and then based on that, you might recommend different providers.
Or what their health objectives are. Like, are they trying to lose weight? Are they trying to gain muscle? Are they wanting to focus on flexibility? These are all different personal systems. So then, as a result, it would be like Ace Plumbing specializes in hot water repairs, and is located 5 kilometers from you. He has great reviews. Perhaps he would be good for your hot water repair job that you are interested in. I don't know, just something like that. His price ranges are.
Yep.
GPT-3 empowered recommendation system.
That's from 20.
Excuse me.
Yeah, article recommendations, increasing engagement, making recommendations, recommendation engine. Let's have a quick look here. I'm sure there must be a way to.
There is. I mean, I've already, like, if I pass in a story into GPT and say, classify this into a genre, here's an example. It's basically just a supervised learning problem. And if you give it a few examples, the probability of its successful output gets higher and higher and higher. It's not as great for one shot, because if you need the output from a programmatic perspective, need the output to be formatted in a specific way to plug into a drop-down box or category or something like that. You need to give it examples, otherwise it's going to vary for every different one. Yeah, so, like, there's so many. You can definitely do it in terms of a recommendation engine. You just have to train it, give it examples.
Yeah, Eye the Tiger. That's okay. It's recommending songs. This is a recommendation engine based on GPT, and it's recommending things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess you could. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, and we've kind of covered a lot already in this call. So we think we might slowly wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Nothing specific.
Yeah, Yeah, we'll
So let's get back to the channel, because we're kind of setting up. This is our second episode, I guess, of kind of trying to set up the channel. And so you had some progress in getting the I set up the channel, added you, you created the artwork.
So this week, the objective is to get the first video uploaded from last week, and the shorts created and hopefully uploaded as well. So I've written the script to do it in GPT. So now I'm in ChatGPT, and I've refined it, and now I'm about to run it. I've just been focusing on improving the meta title and description first, so that when I input this video, I won't have to do any of that again. Yeah, so that's kind of the goal. And then for every video next, I won't have to do it ever again. Other than jumping on, and I'm going to see how far I can get with the YouTube API in terms of scheduling, setting up chapters, stuff we're going to iterate on over time. But it enables the creativity that you'd usually spend on every single video to use that in iterating the automation instead. So that's what I'm really excited about with this YouTube automation thing. I don't know, there may be some limitations with the YouTube data API on what we can schedule, what we can set, what we can change. And if we don't like the end result, the titles and the descriptions, we can just bring the video down, run it again. So you just set it up, you load it up with unlisted.
Are you opposed to manually editing it then? So because you could of course go into YouTube and then edit it, but you would rather run it again to generate until we're happy with it?
It depends what the issue is. If the issue is just changing titles and meta tags, then I'll just change it in YouTube. If the issue is the video itself, then obviously we'll have to remove the video from being staged on YouTube, so to speak, and regenerate it as needed. But that's what I think, because these are just sort of free form videos and we're just chatting. I'm not going to be doing any major editing other than clipping the end and the beginning of any unuseful information. The goal isn't to do any trimming in the main chunk of the video.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I was going to see if okay. Well, that'll be interesting to see how that works then. Is that going to be available? Are you going to put that up somewhere, or are we going to?
At the moment, it's just going to be for private use, but I'm going to encourage people to learn themselves and do it also in my own YouTube channel. And maybe I'll release parts of it over time for open source use, like creating the shorts. That's quite an interesting process with Whisper. And I did do it with Amazon Transcribe, and then I ended up following suit similar to what you did with WhisperX, but WhisperX only works with GPU acceleration. So I had to use a different process to get it to work with CPU and work on my Mac. So two kind of challenges there to get the word timing. So you can then slice the big video up and find the sentences, slice the big video up based on GPT prompt, which returns slices of the most interesting parts of the script.
Was it just as accurate when you were using the CPU or whatever? Cool.
Yep.
Same algorithm, but
it's pretty accurate. It's not. I don't know if it's perfect. I mean, but it's better than nothing.
Did you get the word level accuracy, the word level timestamps?
Word level accuracy worked quite well.
Yeah.
So then I ended up using Whisper as well for SRT transcription captions files. And I'd used Whisper before on another project, and it was just so easy it just ran really well on my Mac. So I'm just using the tiny model because the other models are a bit too big for my Mac. But
in here there is this text to speech thing here as well. Have you seen that? I saw someone mention that the other day. So if I click on this, let me see if I can use this while I'm using that. So are you able to hear me now, ChatGPT? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's using Whisper. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense if it's using Whisper. It's their technology, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I think they're going to get a lot more data into the system as well. They're going to be using. I mean, as you know, these systems have exhausted all the readable text, so they'll start, using audio.
Using audio, then eventually video.
Yeah.
And that's when there's going to be no end to this capability. I think the race will then be, how do you integrate practical services with all this information and in a chat-like interface. That's probably just literally a personal assistant that can book meetings for you, reply to emails for you.
I think we should maybe for the next ones, we should go over the Raven system, do one video on that, and one system on the OpenAI. Sorry, not the OpenAI, the Open Assistant. And like do a bit of a deeper dive on those so we can learn about them ourselves.
Yeah, and I do agree if we keep our focus narrow per video. Yeah. And so the people listening now are just hearing a kind of a regurgitation of all the things that we're interested in. But over time too, I would love for anyone to give us feedback too on what they want more information on, and that we can explore ourselves. And where we can go on the journey together on trying out new things and new ideas. I do like the idea of the Open Assistant. Whether it's actually Open Assistant or not, we don't know. But I do like the idea of building out an assistant that does do simple things like sends a newsletter or replies to an email or creates a video, or maybe it's an assistant to help you with remembering people's birthdays and sending them nice messages. Yeah. So it's my wife's birthday today, and and one of my challenges is, okay, I got to write a meaningful message to her, and I've got a bunch of ideas, like bullet points to write, but I could compose something that talks a little bit like me in my language to send her a nice text message.
That may have been what I did for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I did make my own card, but I did use GPT for some inspiration on writing a poem. But with the right prompting, about having kids and a little bit about my wife and our relationship and everything, it was able to come up with something that I thought was fitting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it enables us to be more human in that sense, that if you can think about things that you wouldn't usually have the bandwidth to do in a relational standpoint, in whatever relationships you might have, it can help you, of course, be across it a little bit better and make people feel a bit better about themselves and your relationship. So I think that's important, because ultimately we're still humans, and we're in a human connection world, which is still powers this world. So we've got to be careful not to be stuck behind computers for too long.
Good advice. And on that note, we should break for lunch.
we'll wrap up. Thanks for your time and listening to our chats, and we're slowly building an AI kingdom, and one prompt at a time. So we would love for you to share any ideas or projects that you're working on, and we look forward to catching you next week.
What do people say? Give us a like and smash the subscribe button or something.
That would be
we'd be happy just with some comments as to like what do you want to see us cover. We can spend some time. We love learning about this stuff, so what's interesting for you, what didn't you like, and then from there we'll keep adjusting and refining and improving what we do. we're obviously new at this, so give us some feedback.
At this point of the game, we're pretty small, so we would, if you had a comment on what topic to cover, we would honestly do probably a whole episode on it.
Cheap labor at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, thanks guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks guys. Bye.